welcome everybody to our weekly filling station. And you all understand the concept is for us to never run around on E, to come and get filled back up. And we definitely need it in this very interesting, precarious, turbulent time. I know all of us is sometimes like, what in the world is going on? It can really rob us of our joy, our faith, our peace, our sanity. And so this is my offering to you to plug in and to be reminded to not give up, to keep your faith strong. And it's so important to our well-being to be connected. This is one of the pillars of Women on the Grow, is that we have a sense of belonging, that somebody knows our name, that somebody cares. And even though we have to do it virtually, I don't know about you, but I'm finding it very comforting when I get to see your faces and hear your voices. I feel like, okay, I'm still connected, because I'm a very social being, and being connected is something I find that keeps me sane and keeps me grounded. Of course, yes, I do my spiritual work, and yes, I do my reading, and yes, I drink my water, and yes, I go walking, but to actually fill back up with the connection of those like-minded men and women who are seeking, who are curious, who are optimistic, who are not giving up, is so critical to our well-being. So today I want to share a message about doing a new thing. Doing a new thing. I don't know, I feel like I'm losing my voice, so let me get a little water. So when I thought about how can we do a new thing, even though we may feel like, well, I can't do anything right now. My hands are tied. I can't go anywhere. We feel limited. But I want us to remember we still can do something new. And so in Isaiah chapter 43, God is telling the Israelites that he's going to help them escape Babylon, and he's going to do a new thing. Behold, I will do a new thing, and it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. So all of you know that I love looking at the inner meaning of the scriptures, and what are the rivers, and what is the desert, and what is the wilderness. I feel like we're in a wilderness right now. We don't know, we can't see where we're going. We don't know how long the pandemic's going to last. That's on a world level, but on a personal level, you may be going through something and you're not quite sure, where am I going with my business? Where am I going with my job? Where am I going with my relationships? Where am I going with my finances, or in my caregiving for my elders? And you're wondering what's next. And rivers are always something that is refreshing. It is refreshing. So I believe that what God is saying to us, in the midst of us going through a dark time, a wilderness time, God can do a new thing. Now, please make note of this word, Babylon. 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 He was going to take the Israelites from Babylon, and Babylon has two meanings. Babylon was known as a place of great power and great strength, but it was also known as a place of great corruption and excess. And so when I started studying this, I thought, we all need to know how to be free of our own Babylons. What am I talking about? Those things that they have a stronghold on us. It's strong. What we believe, what we fear, what we worry about. It's a Babylon. It's very strong, and we can tell ourselves, I'll never stop thinking that way. I'll never get out of this situation. Or we could be thinking about the choices that we made in our past that corrupted our lives, that poisoned our bodies, the foods that we ate, the thoughts that we thought, the people that we were around, the choices that we made that corrupted our possibilities for strength and peace and happiness, success and abundance. So I want to put this message today in this context, that all of us have a Babylon. There's something in our mindset, there's something in our life that is so strong that It could be our anger. It could be our grudges. It could be our worrying about our children, worrying about our spouse, worrying about our finances. That could be such a strong, dominating emotion. And God is saying, but I can get you out of that and do something new. And if you want to do something new in your life, just raise your hand. If you want to do something new and you want to be free of your Babylon, maybe your Babylon is that area in your life where if you had not done ABC, if you had not been with ABC, if you had not eaten ABC, if you had not spent ABC, your life wouldn't feel so corrupted and messed up. But all of us sometimes feel like, wow, I really messed up there. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have eaten that. I shouldn't have been with that person. I shouldn't have stayed at that job so long. I shouldn't have allowed people to walk over me. So do we see the frame that I'm talking about today? That we want to be free of our Babylon. We want to be free of those strongholds that are blocking our blessing, our peace, our happiness, our health, and our finances. So in Isaiah, God is saying, I can do a new thing. I can run rivers through your desert. And so what we want to look at is, why do we have these strongholds? What are those things that we just can't seem to let go of? What is that thinking, those habits that we have that we just can't seem to let go of? And we are creatures of what? Creatures of habit. And so a lot of us will say to ourselves, well, that's just the way I am. That's just the way it is. And we're not allowing God to do a new thing in our lives because we put such a stake and such an investment in what has happened to us in the past that we don't believe we could be debt free. We don't believe that maybe we could find love again. Maybe we don't believe that we can have a life free of drama, free of debt, free of depression. But God's word is saying, yeah, you can. God can do a new thing. But how does that happen? That's the question today. How can we allow God to do a new thing? We have to look at the Babylon that we've allowed to rise up in our lives. So what do I mean? We have to look at our traits, our tendencies, and our trends. That's what habits are. Your habit is your trait. You're negative, you're positive, you're optimistic, you are jealous, you are helpful, you are selfish, you are stingy, you are generous. Those are traits. Your tendencies, what do you tend to do? What are your habits? Do you tend to eat certain things? Do you tend to gravitate towards certain people? Do you tend to go to the same restaurants? Do you tend to watch the same TV programs? Those are your tendencies. And then your trends. Those are the things that you continue to do usually because of cultural conditioning. So there's a story that some of you have heard before, but it's worth mentioning because I think that it'll paint the picture that I'm trying to paint today. And the story is of a young woman who's baking a ham, and her daughter watches her cut off both sides of the ham and then put it in the pan and then put it in the oven. And one day the daughter says, Mom, why do you always cut off the sides, the ends of the ham, and then before you put it in the oven? And she says, I don't know. Let me call my mother. I watched her do it. So she calls her mother and says, Mom, how come every time you made a ham, you cut off both sides of the end and stuck it in the oven? She said, I don't know. So she called her mother, and her mother said the same thing. Eventually, they went back far enough and realized that the mother said, well, the reason I did it because that was the only size pan that I had. So these future daughters learned to do something based on what they saw, not understanding that they've got different pan sizes now. But because of what they saw, they tend to do the same thing. So I know for myself, my first teacher was my mother. I wanted to dress like my mother. I wanted my house decorated like my mother. I wanted to work where my mother worked. I worked where she worked. There were so many things that I wanted because she was my first model. After my mother passed away from cancer, it was my rebirthing. All of a sudden, I started finding my real identity. And it was like, oh, I don't want to dress like that anymore. Oh, I don't want my kitchen to look like that anymore. Oh, I don't want to go to the church she went to. I started parenting myself. It was a challenge because there was no one there to tell me how to do it. And I wanted to belong. I wanted to be accepted, but I realized that I was a critical thinker and that I wasn't a follower and that I wasn't dishonoring my mother because I no longer wanted to follow her trends. Trend. Remember I talked about traits, tendencies, and trends. So in order for God to do a new thing in your life, you're going to have to look and see, what traits do I have that I want to give up? What tendencies do I have? Am I always running late? Do I procrastinate? Do I tend to give too many people access to my life? Do I tend to gossip? Everybody please put yourself on mute. Please put yourself on mute. Thank you. We have to ask ourselves, do I tend to oversleep? Do I tend to stay up late at night? Do I tend to watch programs that are violent or programs that have nothing that will add value to my life? Do I tend to isolate? What are your tendencies? And then you want to ask yourself, what trends have I followed? And this is where we fall into a big hole because of social media. Many people follow the trends. They do the TikTok. They do things because that's the trend. And it has nothing to do with helping them to achieve their goals, but all of a sudden they're following the track of somebody else, not realizing the energy that you're putting into somebody else's trend is taking you away from the track that you need to be on for your health, for your finances, for your relationships, for your business, for your ministry. And it's very easy to get sidetracked and follow other tendencies. So years ago, in our women empowerment circle, before we were Women on the Grow, we were called the Enlightened Circle. And one day we had Della Reese, the actress and singer, and she was also a minister. Della Reese was our guest speaker. In the room, we had about 60 to 70 women. And I was so proud. I went and bought a diamond ring to give her as a gift. We didn't give her an honorarium. I gave her a diamond ring. And I was so excited that Della Reese honored my request. And Della Reese said that. She said, you know what, ladies? She says, you know what? I call her a blessed size woman. She said, I'm a full figure blessed size woman. And she says, you know what? I love to dress. And she says, I remember when we were wearing stockings, that the stockings would match our outfit. Remember those days, ladies? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. You youngins wouldn't know. But there was a time, if you had on a blue suit, you had on blue stockings. Come on, somebody. We had zigzags, and we had rhinestones, and we had all types of stockings. And she said, I love to dress. She said, but I couldn't find any stockings for my blessed size body. And she says, one day I found a store that had every stocking and every color, and they were all in my size. And she says, I walked into that store, I bought up every size and every color. And Della said, as she walked out the parking lot and started to approach her car, she said, I heard a voice and it said, nothing but a hoe would wear those kind of stockings. And she said, ladies, do you know whose voice that was? She said, that was my mother's voice. And she said, I promptly turned around and went back to the store and got a refund. Because I allowed my mother's voice, my mother's influence to determine my trend, what I wanted to do and what I wanted to wear. And that's how powerful the voices are in our heads. And that's why it's very difficult for some of us to allow God to do a new thing, because we have voices in our head We got mama's voice, daddy's voice, ex's voice. That ex that should have been a why. Why was I with that person? We got pastors' voices, celebrities' voices, CNN's voices, our children's voices, our BFS voices, our saboteurs' voices. We've got so many voices in our head. And yet we're saying, God, I want you to do a new thing. But God says, I can't do a new thing. You are not willing to give up your traits, your tendencies, and your trends. And once you are able to acknowledge that I need to unlearn some things, it doesn't mean that you are being disloyal to the memory of a loved one. I was saying that last week I had left a couple of churches when I realized I wasn't being spiritually fed. And there was this tug of war in my spirit because I felt guilty and I felt like, oh my God, what are people going to say? And then I realized, well, you know what? I got some good things out of it, but for the most part, it wasn't feeding the person that I evolved to be. I wanted God to do a new thing in my life. And as I realized that I reached one plateau, that it's time to go to another plateau, that means I have to let go and unlearn some things that no longer are aligned with my maturing, with my perception, with my beliefs. And many of us are living on beliefs. And if you look at the word belief, right in the middle of the word belief is lie. There is no Santa Claus. There is no Easter Bunny. We have been told things with good intention, and sometimes we were told things to threaten us or to persuade us, or we were told things because we wanted to belong, we wanted to be loved, and then we have an awakening and we say, wait a minute, I want God to do a new thing. So maybe there was a voice that said, you know what? Don't trust nobody. So you don't trust anybody. Or maybe you were told there's no good men, so you don't open yourself to love. Or maybe you were told don't trust women. I can't tell you how many women have told me, Jewel, I don't want to be a part of what you're doing. I don't do women. I don't like being around women. I don't trust women. Women are gossipy. Women are messy. But the women that are in our tribe, I need you to raise your hand if you know that is not the truth for our tribe. Come on, somebody. That is not who we are. We are breaking the stereotype. But I understand that have been women who have been hurt and betrayed and in messy stuff, in dysfunctional stuff, and in drama stuff. And so I can understand it. But God cannot do a new thing until you unlearn those myths and those beliefs that are really not the truth. I want God to do a new thing in your life, and I want God to do a new thing in my life. And so I remember Della Reese's story, and it helps me to remember, Jewel, what voices are in your head? Who says you're too old? Who says because you're Black or because you don't have this degree or that degree? Who says because of the pandemic, come on, somebody. We have to be careful of the voices that are blocking God from doing a new thing in our lives. We have to know that what God was saying in that scripture, that there is a deliverance from Babylon. We can be delivered from our personal Babylon. Those places that are strong and that are choking us and that are blocking our view, and those things that have corrupted our lives. You can be delivered from that. God can do a new thing. So let me share this as I close. What I'm saying here today is we have to be, if you want to raise your consciousness, if you want to increase your income, if you want to upgrade the people that are in your life, if you want to have more peace and joy and faith, you're going to have to look at what is it that I believe that is no longer true, and be willing to say, I cannot afford to allow that to keep me limited. There are 3 different types of beliefs. Can I see you hold up 3? There's 3 different types of beliefs. 3. first type is what we call an objective belief. That is a belief that is immutable, is undeniable, it's been proven. So let's say this. If someone were to say, oh, gravity's not real, I could just drop this glass and it's not going to break. Is that true? No, because it has been proven that gravity exists. It's proven. It doesn't have anything to do with your age, your culture, your race, nothing. Gravity is an immutable law. It is an objective law. You can't change it. It is what it is. If someone were to say, Jewel is a male, that ain't the truth. I'm a female. That's the truth. I'm a woman. That's an objective truth. The second truth is a personal truth. So if you say, Jesus Christ is my Savior, that's your personal truth. But you may be working right next to somebody in the cubicle that is an atheist, or someone who believes in Islam, or someone who practices Buddhism. It's your personal truth. You may say, you know what? There's a silver lining with this pandemic, and I believe that when I get through this, I'm going to be okay. That's your personal truth. Somebody else may say, this is horrible. This is from the devil. This is ridiculous. This is unfair. And I'm going to come out of this just a mess. That's your personal truth. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? You may say, I'm going to vote for XYZ. I think XYZ would be a great candidate. That's your personal truth. You may be sitting next to somebody at work that's going to vote for somebody else. That's their personal truth, that their candidate is the best. Am I making sense? Okay, so we've got objective truth, personal truth, and then we have political truth. Political truth is knowing that when Africans came to America, enslaved, it was in the Constitution that if you want to survive, you must be a practicing Christian. You must read the Bible. You must be a Christian. You must have Christian names. You must believe in Jesus if you want to live. There are places that will, a political truth is either going to persuade you to believe something, like a commercial. Oh, I need a new car. I need it. I have been persuaded by advertisement. I need that car. Or a government or a church or a job will say, you need to do so-and-so if you want to keep your job. Or you need to do ABC if you want to belong. So that is a threat. Oh, so a political truth is, I'm going to believe it because I've been persuaded by a person that says, oh, come to my church. Oh, come to my group. Oh, come to Women on the Grow. Oh, come to this party. Oh, go to this conference. That truth that it's a good thing, you were persuaded, or you were threatened to believe something in order to survive. So there are three different truths. What is objective, what is personal, and what is political. And so what am I saying? In order for you to grow and evolve, you want to go through your life being able to distinguish. Am I being motivated by my own personal truth, by an objective truth, or am I being persuaded or threatened to believe this? And if I'm being persuaded, that's my choice. But know that books, movies, conferences, Zooms, television commercials, they're all about persuading us to believe something, to buy something. And so as a conscious person, we have to stay awake and ask ourselves, what's motivating me to go here? What's motivating me to eat this? What's motivating me to go here? What's motivating me to buy this? What's motivating me to believe something? Did I believe as a child that there were fairy tales? I believed. For most of my youth, I believed in fairy tales because I was exposed until I realized that everything doesn't have a happy ending. I was exposed to Disney and Leave It to Beaver and Donna Reed and Doris Day and all types of shows that influenced my thinking. And so in order for God to do something new in my life, I had to stop believing certain things. And as I stopped believing in those fairy tales, I began to grow and I began to see things differently. I hope I'm making sense. I really do. The thing is, if we are still believing the same thing we believed 10 years ago, we haven't evolved. If we're still believing the same thing we believed 20 years ago, that means you have not exposed yourself to other streams of information. God wants to do a new thing, but you have to create the opportunity. You have to unlearn things that are no longer the truth for where you are now in your consciousness, for where you are in your maturity, for where you are in your faith. How is God going to do a new thing if you still believe somebody's going to come rescue you and fix it for you? How is God going to do a new thing if you just say, well, if I just show up and I just, look pretty, or if I just show up, oh, God's going to do it for me. Oh, somebody's going to help me. No, you need to understand there's things you have to do for yourself. There are changes you have to make. There are things you need to unlearn. And you do it without shaming yourself. You say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I used to believe that, but I don't believe that anymore. I'm growing. I don't do that anymore. I used to think that everybody was kind. I used to think that everybody was going to treat me the way I treated them. I really did. And as I ran into people that didn't think like me, I was in shock. I'm going to tell you guys the truth. I have run into some dragons, and I'm like, oh, what? What? I was sheltered. I was protected from a lot of things. I'm sure my parents wanted to protect me, but it didn't serve me well because I didn't recognize vampires and dragons, and I didn't recognize it. And I put myself into situations or relationships or friendships or jobs or churches that really were disguising themselves, and I did not even know it. But as I evolved and as I said, Lord, help me, God says, you're going to have to let go of some of that stuff. You're going to have to, I can't do a new thing until you unlearn some of those things you used to believe. It doesn't mean you're being negative, doesn't mean you don't have faith, but you must learn how to see clearly. You must learn how to put on the full armor of God and protect yourself. Because if you don't, you are being foolish. I was never taught how to put on the full armor, how to protect my thinking, how to protect my heart, to walk where and watch where I'm walking. I didn't. I was naive. So I learned. And as I learned, it's like, oh, I see what that is. Oh, I see what he is. Oh, I see what she is. Oh, okay. I don't need to be involved in that. I don't need to do that. I don't need to judge, but I certainly don't need to give my time and energy to that because I now see something differently. In other words, the more your perception evolves, once you go to a higher floor, you will see more. Right now, I'm on the second floor of my house. I see more than when I'm downstairs in the living room. When I'm downstairs in the living room, I only can see the house across the street. I'm looking now and I can see 4 houses because I'm on a different level of perception. I see things differently because I'm not on a lower level. Come on, somebody. I need your energy because am I making any sense to anybody? It's called waking up. God wants to do a new thing in your life. How is God going to do a new thing in your life if you're still on the second floor, on the first floor? You're still in the basement. You still believe in what you believed 30 years ago? You still believe in what you believed 20 years ago? You still believe if you just smoke a few cigarettes, it's not going to hurt you? You still believe that you could just go spend recklessly and it's not going to affect you financially? You still believe that? You still believe that? You still believe somebody's just going to come fix it for you because you're a nice person? You still believe that? What do you believe? Be honest with yourself so that God can do a new thing and you can have deliverance from your Babylon. There's two sides to Babylon. A place of great strength and power it was known for, but it was also known as a city of great corruption. What has corrupted your thinking? What has corrupted your body? What has corrupted your peace? And as you begin to look at those things that have corrupted your peace, you'll start making different decisions. And here is my personal belief. This is my personal belief that this pandemic, the silver lining for me is that it has caused me to stop, reflect, and rethink some of my choices. That keeps me from being mad and frustrated and irritated. I have to find a silver lining. And my belief is this has slowed me down to be smarter, to have more faith in what I don't understand in the mystery of God. It has given me more opportunity to read. It has given me more opportunity to reflect and say, where has your time gone? Where has your money gone? Where has your energy gone? And what are you going to do differently from this point forward? Have you been grateful? Have you been in the present moment? Or you just been rushing from airport to airport and conference to conference and not even understanding how precious this life is, that you just woke up this morning. What a blessing. Don't take it for granted, Jill Donna Taylor. Life is slowed down. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. I hope that something has been said that will fill you back up. I pray that you have hope. I pray that you have joy. I pray that you have strength. I pray that you have courage. I pray that you have perseverance. I pray that you know that you are loved and you are magnificent and you are phenomenal and you can do anything if you allow God to do a new thing in your life. I am honored to know you. I am honored to be able to speak into your lives. And I thank you for the honor and I thank you for the privilege. Please know that you do not have to share anything as we come to a close. It's not mandatory, but I do open up the floor. And what we ask you to do is to raise your hand and I will acknowledge you. But do not feel that you're obligated. You don't have to turn the video on if you don't want to be seen. That's cool. Please know that the password and link that you use today is the same one you'll be using up until October. It is the same link and the same password. Please know that you are welcome to share this with your circle of influence. Please know that there is no mandatory donation, but we welcome them. If you feel like something has been sown into your life and you believe in the law of reaping and sowing, we certainly do appreciate that. Our website is womenonthegrow.org. And as soon as you go to that website, womenonthegrow.org, you will see a donation button. And as I'm looking at our audience today, most of you are what we call sister sowers. And so I thank you very much for those of you that are sister sowers. You give something every month, and it is a tremendous blessing. We're able to do the work to spread love to those women that are in hardship. And we were able to do it recently for women raising children on the autism spectrum and women nurses dealing with the pandemic. And it's because of your donations we're able to continue to fulfill our mission. And I thank you so much.